it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. And we're zooming in and focusing in on a very frequent question that we get into the channel, and that is, how long does it take to heal from a malignant narcissist or a psychopath relationship, a relationship with a psychopath, someone who has used emotional manipulation tools such as hyperarousal, hypersexual arousal, gaslighting, the experience of having your sense of reality distorted or invalidated or denatured, the tools of brainwashing, giving you a set of rules and precepts to live by which are not in your best interest, but that are to self-serve that of the psychopath. In other words, to play along with their foibles, start living in their illusion and really illusory sort of reality with this person, as they draw you forward with sort of pathological lies and a pure facade or a mask of what they want you to relate to. So you begin to then dissolve your inner values, your inner tenets that you hold dear, the things that you find most important in your life. You're no longer having a sense of connection to. You are basically ungrounded in your psychology, in your cognitions, in your behaviors, and in your emotional body. And that is then replaced with their needs, their psychopathic needs, their narcissistic needs, where they basically hollow you out. And through the hyper arousal stage, where they violate your boundaries through high risk behaviors. So it can be that anything from, especially common is, sexualization, hyper sexualization of really everything in the environment to become a sexual item, a sexual tool, with which then you perceive the psychopath through sort of a psychopathic filter, where they will sexualize everything through the things that they say. The word salad, oftentimes people say word salad is left for people who are schizophrenic. Narcissistic and psychopathic individuals will blend a whole cacophony of emotional relativity to items which does not exist. So everything becomes to have this sort of meaning of sexuality. And this is very, very potent and very toxic and very destructive and corruptive of sort of the mind workings of those individuals who are around them. In other words, they're living in an altered state of consciousness or an altered reality, which is they are not in control of. So that, I think, is what is very fearful, is that then the psychopath then basically has control over you as a being. And it's a very uncomfortable space. And when people are, I think, originally in it, they feel that they have met their soulmate. So in the beginning, they begin to assign a positive meaning to that state. They say, oh, I've just found the answer to my prayers. This is my soulmate. This is my whatever. They basically, assign meaning, a positive meaning, that this is their better half, that now they are made whole through this person. But do you see where there's a delusion or a denaturing because the individual is not whole to begin with? So they end up emptying out, this wholeness or this concreteness or groundedness, and through boundary violation, oftentimes through hyper arousal and hyper sexualization, high risk sex, where these people will be touched inappropriately in public places, requested to do it in very inappropriate places, in an office, in a park, in a hallway, while other people are looking and they won't even notice. And how can you do this to me? We're in a department store, we're in a restaurant, we're at a meeting, and then people, they then think that this is, the way to be. Wow, look at me. I've got, this person who's all over me. And so there's this, this is my knight in shining armor, or the goddess of my dreams. People assign this meaning or this label to what is a psychopath. And especially if they don't come into the relationship knowing that there are these predatory sort of people out there, then there's a lesson that's going to have to be learned, that there are people who will suss out and scope out people who they can become parasitic with, and who, through the boundary violation, they'll say, this person has a lot of affection, this person has a lot of time, this person has a lot of heart, a lot of money, whatever it is, that they want, they are looking for, some of those qualities that they can take and basically feed off of like a parasite. And they will oftentimes wear you down or break you down through constant love bombing, what is known as love bombing, or where they whisper things in your ear or send you all sorts of texts. Fancy this, fancy that, distractive this, when you're supposed to be sleeping, telling you things like, I wake up and I'm dreaming about you. All these sort of delusional fantasies that, they will say, I'm always thinking about you, or, I'm thinking, and then they'll fill in the blanks with the kind of life you're going to have, and feeding you all the things that you want to hear. And you don't have to worry about your ex, or you don't have to worry about your children, and then all of a sudden you become in this oceanic feeling of being, the chemicals, the endorphins, the feel-good endorphins are running through your body. The dopamine, all the love hormones combined with the stress hormones of fear basically now are in a very lethal cocktail. So you're then hyper aroused with fear, and hyper aroused with self-denaturing, hyper aroused with self-destruction, basically self-annihilation. And then it can become very, very terrorizing. And then people feel like when this person is gone, they don't have a sense of reality. They don't know who they are. They're in a depersonalized state. So realize that this is the psychological warfare that is inflicted by a psychopath. They have a very sick pleasure with seeing people enter into that state of being hooked, of wanting more, of being taken over. And once again, the people who are victims of this, basically anybody can be, because who doesn't have a need to have a relationship or be connected, but yet now, they don't understand it's for this type of person. And people don't fathom that there are people in the world who would have this cruel intention and be able to hyper arouse for the end point, for the end bottom line of destroying their lives, destroying them financially, siphoning off a lot of money, destroying them professionally, ruining their reputation, getting their professional email, sending them pictures, sending them viruses, people who have been basically followed. What's the word I'm looking for? Where they're stalked. Where this and they're living in a constant state of fear. Where this person, there's things written on their car. There's things, that they will put on their clothes and leave their clothes places, or do very strange sort of what I call basically calling card things that a narcissist or a psychopath more so will do. It's kind of their hallmark sort of look, who might leave sexual fluids on their clothes while they go out on a date, and you're like, what's all over your shirt? And it's some sort of sexual fluid, or a girl's lipstick, or a man's cologne, or a woman's glitter, or hair all over them, where it's just like an obvious, like, I've been with somebody, what are you going to do about it? And then just not be disturbed at all by it. I mean, they're able to, rotate a number of different partners where most people, 99% of people would not be able to do. Psychologically, emotionally, physically, it would not be possible. But these people have, hyper energy for sexualization and for violating societal norms. So they can just do this. It's normal for them. They don't operate in a sense of emotional humanity or empathy. They don't have a conscience. So what most people would schedule their life to be, or their life rules and tenets, how they're going to live their life, or what is important, or for the people to build, a sense of safety, security, family, integrity in their profession, all these sort of things. They have no such need. They have no such. It's like they're hollow. It's like a cold. People say cold-blooded. Psychopaths are 1% of the population, but they create 50% of the most major crimes. So, there's no heart in there. There's no emotional connection the way that other people would. So if they can dissolve that, that's their way of relating. That's their way of having, quote quote unquote relationships. But your end destruction, it's like consuming you. It's like consuming a piece of bread. I mean, to them, it's one and the same. They don't really distinguish. They don't connect to music in the same way. Movies, life plans, responsibilities, they are disconnected from this. So if you have encountered this type of person and you've now exposed them and you're wondering how long it's going to take to heal through, you have to really kind of look at the extent to which you have been involved and to the extent of where you are right now. And realize that separating from that torture is number one, what you need to do, and focus on just being safe and focus on knowing that, you're now away from this negative influence. And you're going to feel the ripple and you're going to feel the effect really for months to come, because it's engraved itself in your brain. Because of the addiction, it's a hyper aroused state that's created in you, which is kind of like a psychological warfare, such as you might see in torture camps that are used in acts of war to brainwash victims from, the enemy. But this person did not look like an enemy to you. This person looked like a partner, a life partner, whoever it was, so you did not perceive them as the enemy. They see, on the outside, they did not seem like an enemy, but really that is kind of what the same state of psychological warfare is engendered in psychological takeover of an enemy and trying to brainwash them and gaslighting them into turning against their country of origin. And so this is really also what happens in cults, where they indoctrinate them into the same sort of sick philosophy and get them to, live in a very isolated community and destroy or strip them of their identity, and then they become part of this cult. And what a horrific thing. But, then you talk about saving people and getting them free from, and deprogramming them. So it's very much in the same line and same seriousness with which of, going through that, being kind of denatured or stripped of your identity. So it can be very scary. And to restore it back, yes, it will be restored. Your sense of sanity will be restored. Please read and follow the tools that I have outlined here. And I'm working on a book to kind of put them all in one focused place so you can get there quickly. But the roll of time, it might take 12 to 18 months just for you to begin to kind of come out and then get into your sense of real normal and real authenticity again, where you're not in that hypervigilant, fearful state, that is oftentimes a ripple effect of being with this person. And a lot of people who continue to not see it or live in denial, those poor people are staying stuck in that, and it will ruin their life if they are in, with these people for way too long and just end up seeing that their whole life has been a sham that they have entrusted to a psychopath. It can be very, very difficult if people don't discover this if they're in their 50s, 60s, 70s, they have children, or they end up losing their house or their place in their community, they have to move. It can become, it depends on really the number of people that are involved. But realize, I would give yourself 18 months of concentrated work, concentrated focus, and using the tools that we discuss here in terms of resensitizing yourself, getting that inner dialogue going and the I am going, becoming very simple. You have to really focus on those tools. And I will once again organize those once again in a book, but I have a number of tools here to resensitize your senses, get focused, kind of get everything back in congruency and get your authentic self and really love and nurture and embrace that authentic self, because once you have it, it can never be eroded or corrupted or taken away from you again. It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.